Hello, and thanks for checking out this video. Today, we will be discussing some of the styles or approaches to mediation that are most commonly used by mediators. By the end of this video, you should have a good understanding of the facilitative, evaluative, and transformative approaches to mediation, and you should be able to explain how they compare and contrast with each other. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's answer one basic question. What is mediation? Mediation is a process that most of us have a bit of experience with, at least on a personal level. Even if you didn't know what you were doing at the time, you've likely helped mediate conflict between friends, coworkers, or even members of your family. And serving as a mediator can be extremely helpful for a variety of people seeking to resolve conflict. Since there is a vast landscape of conflict and/or conflict resolution, coupled with various situations and contexts, mediation can be defined in a few different ways. For the purpose of this video, however, we will rely on a definition from McCorkle and Reese, 2018, which says that mediation is a process for resolving disputes where an intermediary helps conflicting parties have a conversation to jointly resolve their concerns. As you might notice from this definition, there's a strong emphasis that is placed on the communication between conflicting parties to find a resolution, rather than on the mediator, whose sole purpose in most approaches to mediation is to facilitate productive and effective dialogue between participants. While it is the job of a mediator to facilitate a conversation between participants, mediator styles, or the way they approach mediation, may differ depending on the mediator's personal communication style, the type of conflict, or varying levels of power amongst disputants. According to Foster, 2003, facilitative mediation was once the norm, or mainstream approach to mediation, and thus the only style taught by practitioners. But with more studies and research over the years, additional mediation styles like evaluative and transformative mediation have emerged as effective pathways toward resolution. Let's dive into our first mediation style. The longest used and most adaptable style of mediation is known as facilitative mediation. As mentioned previously, facilitative mediation was, at one time, the only style of mediation taught or used by mediators. According to Schank, 2022, mediators that employ a facilitative approach attempt to facilitate negotiation between parties in conflict. The focus of a facilitative mediator is less on finding or making recommendations for a resolution, but rather to encourage participants to find or establish a voluntary solution by exploring their needs or wants through a variety of techniques. The Oregon Mediation Association notes that successful facilitative mediators explore the needs of participants by utilizing three techniques: asking questions, normalizing perspectives, and validating both parties' points of view to guide their mediation sessions. Kolb, 1983, asserts that mediators can be broadly defined in two ways, as deal makers or orchestrators. In this context, think of deal makers as individuals who are skilled at bargaining and closing a deal, and think of orchestrators as individuals that arrange or control elements to achieve a desired overall effect. Following Kolb's assertion, facilitative mediators are much more aligned with orchestrators because their focus is more on having control over the mediation environment rather than closing a deal. As a function of control, facilitative mediators guide the mediation process and ensure that participants are able to voice their ideas, thoughts, and opinions in a safe environment. In order for a resolution to be reached, Hughes, 1998, notes that facilitative mediation is centered around three fundamental assumptions: that participants are reasonably intelligent, participants have the ability to work with each other to find a resolution if they are placed in a safe and neutral environment, and that all parties are better able to understand their situation than the mediator and can therefore find and develop better solutions and resolutions. In response to a movement from court cases to mediation, a new approach or style of mediation was born, known as evaluative mediation, which is, according to Mediate.com 2011, a process which may include an assessment by the mediator of the strengths and weaknesses of the parties' cases and a prediction of the likely outcome of the case. From the definition, it is clear that evaluative mediation is quite different from facilitative mediation for a couple of reasons. The first reason is because participants might not be there entirely by choice, but because they are court-mandated. And the second reason is that mediators not only facilitate productive dialogue, but they offer their expertise regarding the law and resolutions. Since evaluative mediation is so connected to the law, it is commonly used in divorces, family disputes, and lawsuits, and is the only style of mediation in which mediators are qualified or allowed to offer legal advice or guidance. The reason evaluative mediators are able to provide legal advice is because they have a strong legal background or mediate with an attorney present. According to Hughes, 1998, evaluative mediators do what facilitative mediators do not. They offer advice, make assessments, propose fair and workable resolutions to one or more issues, press the parties to accept a particular resolution, and state opinions, including opinions on the likely outcome. As Bush and Folger, 2004, note, evaluative mediators steer disputants toward outcomes in substantive conformity with legal rights. Some powerful techniques employed by evaluative mediators include informing participants or disputants about the law, offering an assessment of each participant's position, and listening. By implementing these techniques, evaluative mediators, according to ADR Times 2022, are encouraged to provide an evaluation, make predictions and recommendations, and to shuttle diplomacy via caucus. A caucus, according to the U.S. Department of Justice, is a confidential private meeting held by the mediator with individual parties or a brief private meeting of a negotiation team conducted during bargaining. While a caucus can be used in every style of mediation, evaluative mediators rely on it the most so they can encourage parties to consider a particular weakness in their case without damaging their credibility in front of the opposing party, whereas facilitative and transformative mediators rely on it occasionally, preferring to keep conflicting parties communicating face-to-face. The third style of mediation we will be discussing today is known as transformative mediation, which is the newest or most recent style of the three. According to McCorkle and Reese, 2018, the goal of transformative mediation is to change and transform adversaries into people who see the value of the other disputant and their relationship. Rather than focusing primarily on facilitating productive dialogue as a mediator would in facilitative processes, or having a mediator push for resolution as they would in an evaluative process, transformative mediation seeks to make a change based on communication, specifically communication that is emotionally or personally driven. Following the 2004 publication, The Promise of Mediation, Spangler 2013 credits Barack Bush and Joseph Folger for the creation of the transformative approach, stating that it was their publication that provided the framework and outlined the process of transformative mediation. Similarly to the facilitative approach, the goal of a transformative mediator is less centered on finding a resolution, but rather to humanize and harmonize the participants. As McCorkle and Reese 2018 note, the purpose of transformative mediation is to change individuals from adversaries into people who see the value of the other disputant in their relationship. Thank you for checking out this video. By now, you should have a better understanding of three styles of mediation, including facilitative, evaluative, and transformative, and you should be able to provide a description, compare and contrast each one.